Ex-wife laughed as she divorced him and left only the ruined mansion for him. In the courtroom, Claire's laughter cut through Marcus like glass. She'd taken his company, his homes, his accounts, leaving him only the crumbling mansion on Millstone Hill. That dump. He can keep it. She smirked, certain she destroyed him. What she didn't know was that years earlier, Marcus had turned that worthless house into his hidden fortress, stacked with cash, gold bars, and jewels no court could touch. Months later, while her empire drowned in debt, Marcus stepped back into the spotlight, stronger than ever. Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end, and if this story moves you, drop your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now let's begin. The gavel cracked like a snapped bone, and the room flinched. Marcus Hayes didn't. He stood there, shoulders squared, the kind of stillness you get when you've already bled out everything that can bleed. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, cold and merciless. The judge read out numbers, assets, valuations, words that used to mean late nights and payroll and pride. Today they sounded like inventory being rolled off a loading dock. Across the aisle, Claire crossed one leg over the other, smooth, casual, like she was settling into a flight upgrade. A tiny smile crept at the corner of her mouth. Her lawyer slid a paper forward. Pens clicked. Someone in the back whispered, "What's up with this guy lost it all?" Another voice, lower, leaning into the gossip. "He married up, man. Married wrong." Wow. Marcus pinched the ridge of his tie. Not to tidy it, just to feel something. His palms itched. The air tasted like dust and old files. He glanced down at Jasmine, 10 years old, chin tucked into the collar of her sweater, trying to be invisible. Her small hand folded around two of his fingers, and he locked his jaw so the emotion didn't leak where cameras could drink it. The court awards the petitioner controlling interest in Hayes Innovations, subsidiary holdings, primary residences in Rivercrest and Lakeview, liquid accounts totaling. The list didn't end. It just dissolved into a hiss. Then that last line, dry, routine, lethal, except the secondary property on Millstone Hill. A chuckle rippled like cheap champagne. The haunted mansion, someone snickered. Crumbling relic, another muttered. Claire didn't look up, just flipped a strand of hair back as if the word ruins were beneath her skincare routine. She set the pen down with a little tap that sounded, to Marcus, like a lock clicking. He breathed in slow, out slower. This is where a lesser man breaks. He didn't. He let the humiliation wash over him like cold rain you don't bother to dodge. He'd known pain that didn't trend, grief that didn't get hashtags. He swallowed, shifted his weight. A micro movement. Nothing dramatic. Just a choice not to fold. "Yo, you think he's done?" The whisper trailed him to the corridor. "Looks done to me." Another reply, softer, almost sympathetic. "He used to help folks' kids with scholarships, remember? Life's wild." Marcus adjusted Jasmine's backpack strap on her shoulder and guided her toward the exit. The hallway smelled like toner and old coffee. Cameras blinked red. A security guard scratched his jaw, eyes lingering a second too long. Claire's laughter drifted behind him. Short, airy, rehearsed. The kind of laugh you use when you're sure the world belongs to you. Outside, the wind sliced through his suit and rattled the leaves in a row of planters that never looked alive. Traffic hissed. A delivery truck beeped as it crawled backward. Jasmine's breath drew white in the air. He bent just enough to meet her eyes. "We're okay," he said, barely more than a breath. Not a promise. An instruction to his own pulse. On the curb, two interns in cheap suits compared notes. "She took everything," one said. "Left him with that dead house." The other shrugged. "That's all he deserves," I heard her say. A beat. "Man, that's cold." Marcus turned his gaze toward the city's steel edges, then past them, to a hill you couldn't see from here. Millstone, A place everyone had decided was finished. He let the thought sit, heavy and steady. He rolled his cuff, exposing the thin line of a watch he'd kept since his first contract. Tick, tick, not defeat tempo. He flagged a cab with 2 fingers, sufficient. The door handle felt colder than the air. Jasmine slid in first. He followed, careful, controlled. The seat springs complained. As the car pulled into traffic, the courthouse shrank in the mirror, and with it the noise, the whispers, the press of other people's certainty. Let them keep their laughter, he thought. Let them keep their headlines. He had something no one in that room could name, and it was waiting exactly where she swore she'd never bother to look. The mansion on Millstone Hill didn't look like it had heartbeat. From the outside, it was a skeleton of another century. Roof sagging, ivy strangling the brick, shutters hanging by one hinge. The gravel drive was choked with weeds, the gate crooked like it was embarrassed to stand. Even the wind here seemed slower, heavier. Marcus stepped out of the cab with Jasmine close at his side. The driver gave the place a long stare before pulling away. "You really staying here, man?" His tone wasn't judgment, it was disbelief. Marcus didn't answer. He pushed open the iron gate, the hinges groaning like they hadn't been moved in years. The air smelled of wet earth and wood rot, a scent that to most meant decay. But to Marcus, it meant privacy. Inside, the floor groaned beneath their steps. Wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing plaster the color of old teeth. Rain had chewed at the edges of the ceiling, leaving brown blooms in the paint. Somewhere deep in the house, a loose window frame clattered softly in the wind. Jasmine wrinkled her nose. "Dad, it's kind of creepy." He glanced at her, a corner of his mouth twitching. "That's what makes it perfect." What she didn't know, and what no one outside this house ever would, was that 10 years ago, before Claire, before the courtroom humiliation, Marcus had made this place his insurance policy. Back when Hayes Innovations was booming, he'd grown wary of how exposed wealth could be, how quickly it could be clawed away by taxes, lawsuits, or vultures dressed like friends. He called a contractor under a false name, paid in cash, told him it was for a wine cellar expansion, but Marcus oversaw every detail. Steel-reinforced walls, a triple-lock vault door, climate control, silent alarms not linked to any network. Then, over the years, he began to fill it, brick by brick, in the form of hard cash, gold bars, rare diamonds, antique jewelry worth more than houses. He never told his late wife. She wouldn't have understood the need for secrecy. And Claire, she'd never even set foot here. She called it the haunted carcass of his family's past, and wrinkled her nose like stepping inside would give her a rash. He led Jasmine down a narrow hallway to a locked door that looked like it belonged to a broom closet. The key was cold in his hand. The lock clicked, slow and deliberate. The air changed immediately, a faint metallic chill, like the breath of something sleeping. The door swung inward to reveal a steep staircase leading into shadow. Dust motes swirled in the light from the bare bulb above. Marcus took the steps one at a time, his polished shoes leaving shallow prints in the thin dust. Jasmine followed, her sneakers squeaking softly. At the bottom, they reached a second door, plain, wooden, harmless looking. Marcus knelt, brushed the dust from the floor, and pressed his palm to a knot in the wood. With a quiet mechanical sigh, the panel slid aside, revealing the vault door behind it. The steel was still flawless, untouched by time. He spun the wheel lock, each turn deliberate. The air on the other side was cool, still, smelling faintly of cedar and wealth. Gold bars stacked like bricks of sunlight, cash wrapped in neat plastic bundles. Velvet boxes lined up like soldiers, each cradling diamonds that caught the dim light and fractured it into 1,000 glimmers. Jasmine's eyes widened, but she didn't speak. She just stepped closer, the soles of her shoes whispering against the concrete floor. Marcus rested a hand on one stack of gold. "This is why we don't panic," he said, his voice low, almost conversational. Upstairs, a loose shutter banged once in the wind, a sound that could have been mistaken for the mansion sighing. He stood there for a long moment, letting the silence sink in. The world thought he was ruined. Claire thought she'd stripped him down to nothing. But here, in this cold room, he was more than solvent. He was free. Not ready to strike yet, but ready to begin. Marcus didn't touch most of it. That was the point. You don't build an empire by dumping all your gold on the table at once. You move quietly, like you're threading wire through the dark. For the first 2 weeks after the divorce, he kept the mansion looking as pitiful as it always had. The shutters still banged, weeds still clawed the gravel drive, and anyone passing by would swear the place was one winter away from collapsing. It kept the curious away. But each morning, after walking Jasmine to school, Marcus would return, head down, hands in his pockets. He'd slip inside, descend into the vault, and select just enough. An envelope of cash here, a single velvet box there, to fuel his next step without drawing attention. The first call was to an old friend, Arturo, who ran a discreet pawn and precious metals exchange out of a warehouse near the docks. The kind of place with no receipts, just trust and a handshake. Arturo's eyes widened when the first diamond hit the table. Man, you've been holding out on me. Marcus just smiled faintly. I've been patient. While Claire paraded through galas in new gowns, Marcus was buying back influence in small, sharp moves. An underperforming logistics company with no public eyes on it. A sliver of stock in an energy firm whose CEO owed him a favor. A tech startup barely making headlines now, but destined to explode in 2 years. Meanwhile, whispers about Claire began to drift into coffee shops and business lunches. She's running Hayes Innovations now. Poor girl's in over her head. She doesn't know a ledger from a lunch menu. Give it time. The sharks will smell blood. Even Jasmine overheard it. One afternoon at the corner store, 2 women near the frozen section spoke in hushed tones. That Claire took everything from her husband. Yeah, and now she's about to lose it all herself. Karma's a patient lady. Jasmine looked at her father when they left, a shy grin tugging at her mouth. He just raised an eyebrow. People talk, he said. We let them. At the mansion, changes began. Not to the exterior, not yet. But inside, Marcus repaired the old study, replacing warped wood and sealing the windows. He turned a dusty drawing room into a sleek office with a long mahogany desk and 2 leather chairs. The vault became an extension of that office, a treasury feeding a vision only he could see. Every night, he'd stand by the cracked second-story window, watching headlights crawl along the distant road, feeling the slow, delicious weight of preparation. By the 3rd month, the vault was lighter by maybe 2%, but the investments it had fueled were already growing roots. Calls from overseas partners came in at odd hours. Accounts in his name began to fill, not from anything Claire could seize, but from ventures she couldn't even comprehend. And then, one morning, as Marcus reviewed a set of contracts in the renovated study, the phone buzzed with a message from Arturo. She's in trouble. Your ex real trouble. Marcus leaned back, fingers steepled, the leather chair sighing beneath him. It wasn't time to smile yet, but it was close. By month 4, Claire's glossy social media posts began to slow. No more champagne glasses clinking against city skylines. No more red carpet smiles with industry elites. Instead, there were grainy photos taken in dim restaurants, captions that tried too hard, and a noticeable absence of certain friends who had once hovered at her side. The gossip in the business district turned sharper. Hayes Innovations missed another quarterly filing. Vendors aren't getting paid. She's mortgaging properties, now a desperate move. Marcus heard it all without asking. People love telling you bad news about someone who wronged you. It's like feeding bread to ducks. But he didn't gloat. Not yet. He stayed in the mansion, refining plans, moving money, growing silent empires from the shadows. One rainy afternoon, he was in the study when a segment came on the business news channel. Breaking. A's Innovations faces foreclosure proceedings on 2 major properties after defaulting on multiple loans. The anchor's tone was neutral, but the footage that followed was not. Clips of Claire leaving the courthouse, hair plastered to her cheek, makeup washed pale by rain. She didn't look like a queen anymore. She looked like someone who'd been shoved out of her own castle. By month 6, bankruptcy filings hit. Luxury cars repossessed. The penthouse sold at auction. She'd even tried selling off some of the company's remaining assets, only to discover that many were under liens she couldn't lift. Marcus's phone buzzed constantly now. Journalists wanted his comment on the spectacular collapse of his former company. Investors wanted him back. Partners overseas were ready to pour capital into whatever he touched. That was when he decided it was time. The comeback wasn't loud, it was deliberate. Invitations went out for a launch event at the city's most iconic skyscraper. The press release announced Hayes Global Investments, a firm focused on high-value, high-integrity ventures. The kind of statement that said, "I'm back, and this time, no one's taking the crown." On the day of the launch, the lobby buzzed with cameras, reporters, and industry heavyweights. Marcus stepped onto the stage in a tailored charcoal suit, his tie knotted with precision, his daughter Jasmine, now beaming in a simple but elegant dress, standing proudly beside him. He didn't mention Claire by name. He didn't have to. Success, he told the crowd, isn't about what people give you or take from you. It's about what you're prepared to protect, even when the world thinks you've lost. Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed like fireworks, and for a brief moment, Marcus let himself breathe it in. The vindication, the freedom, the clean slate. Somewhere across town, in a cramped apartment she could barely afford, Claire scrolled through the news feed. The headline under Marcus's photo read, "From Ruins to Riches. Marcus Hayes returned stronger than ever." The coffee in her mug had gone cold. The laugh she once used to humiliate him was long gone too, replaced by silence. And on Millstone Hill, the mansion still stood, its shutters fixed, its gates straightened, and its secrets intact. Because Marcus knew, you never show the world all your cards. You just let them think they've won, until the day they realized they were playing the wrong game all along. If you think Marcus's comeback was satisfying, just wait until you hear our next story. Another betrayal, an even bigger twist, and a revenge you won't see coming. So hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stick around, because you're not going to want to miss what's next.